This program is brought to you by Tab. We're on. Download the app today. What are you really gambling with?
Hello, I'm Caroline Searcy. Welcome to the final episode of Thoroughbreds Are Go for 2024. Coming up on this week's show, we visit Ally Mosely and her retired gelding Gerry, and hear from the accomplished equestrian and sky racing presenter. Silverdale Farm has run a number of staff training courses in recent years, bringing new people into the racing and breeding industry. And we catch up with one of their course graduates, Jemma Still, at the Paul and Martha Cave stable at Warwick Farm. And we wrap up the series with another great tale in Arrowfield studs beyond the winning post. Where are they now? That's all coming up on this edition of Thoroughbreds Are Go. We all appreciate the great racing knowledge Ally Mosely imparts on Sky Thoroughbred Central, but she's also very experienced when it comes to thoroughbred aftercare. She's show jumping with a retired thoroughbred called Gerry, bred by Gerry Harvey, and has some great thoughts on thoroughbred rehoming in Australia.
They couldn't have him here in any better order for the Sydney Stakes.
Ally, it's fabulous to see you out here at this incredible stable complex. It's in eastern Sydney, and the horses are just able to get out and free graze and enjoy life. And one, I don't know if it's in shot, about to have a roll behind you, but isn't it great to have horses right in the CBD?
We're so lucky, Caro, and particularly for me, when I moved up to Sydney, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that I wanted to have my horse with me, and that was a really big deciding factor for me when I moved up here. And so for a little while he was out of town, and it was really hard to balance how busy we are with the racing with then also trying to compete, and it takes a lot of time. So, and not just that, I really enjoy seeing him. It gives me that grounding. I don't work in the stables anymore, so for me to be able to see him every morning and night, I live very, very close to here. I often will run down here and see him, and it just grounds me. It makes me happy. Even if I'm not riding, just to see him every day is special and so convenient.
And it's so rewarding. I mean, this is the thing we try and get across with the shows. To see people that are involved with racing, to be able to have access to those horses when they finish racing, it's just so beautiful to be around, isn't it?
Exactly, and virtually all the girls down here have retired racehorses or are involved in some element with racing, whether they're working in a stable or in bloodstock or whatever it might be. And so we've all got that common factor, and a lot of my friends are down here, so you end up making, you know, everyone from the track, and they're all then your friends down here as well. So it brings everyone together, but it's that continual circle of, a lot of these guys have worked with their horses during their racing careers, like particularly Ella with, say, Dothraki and a couple of the others. So for them to then be able to have them here in Sydney and still do both is, I mean, it's a dream.
It really is, isn't it? Now tell me about Gerry. James, of course, was his race name, or he was named officially. But Gerry, after Gerry Harvey, of course, his breeder at Barramall Stud, and your partner Luke works with Gerry. Tell me how you came to get him.
So it was quite ironic. We can laugh about the irony now, but so obviously his name is James and Luke's brother is called James. So we said, well, we might have to change his name. As much as I would have loved to keep his race name, we had to change that. So
can you go J-Mac?
Oh, I thought, you know what, it might be a little bit too close to home.
Yep.
And funnily enough, Luke had only just really started working for Gerry. He hadn't been there too long. So I thought, Gerry, this will be a funny name. And here he is 5 years later and he's still working for him. So now we have to say, when I say I'm going to see Gerry, we have to say which Gerry.
The two-legged or four-legged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, Luke got a call from Richard Litt saying, I've got one of yours, he was only 3, I think he was rising 4 at the time. Do you think you could come in and have a look at him? I'm not sure what to do with him. He's a big-bodied horse, he's scopy, he actually moves quite well, but he's really slow. And I mean really slow, and he's quite well related. So he said, I don't know what you want to do with him. So perhaps normally in that instance, Luke would send him to a country trainer or just figure out where he fits within the scope of Gerry's racing operation. And I went out with him, unfortunately. So that was the beginning of the end, Luke says. And I just fell in love with him. I've got photos from the very first day that I met him. I was just besotted. He's got this cheeky, quirky, human-like personality, and he had everything that I would look for when I'm looking for a horse that I'd like to take as a show jumper or an athletic type of horse off the track. So that was pretty much it. I said to Luke, we've got the same birthday. I said to him, his name's James. We've got the same birthday. It's like the planets are aligning.
Oh,
so
that's too good.
He was doomed from the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's a great story. And obviously you are flat out with your Sky Racing hosting duties. What do you do with him? Obviously the competition we'll talk about in a sec, but the day-to-day, how much time does it take to come out, look after him, let him out? As I said, in this great place they can get out and free graze, feed him, farrier work, everything. How much time does it take?
It's time consuming, and I'm quite precious, so I like to spend as much time and be across as much as I can with him. So I'll get down here every morning and every night I'm here, so I'll often come down and I'll do my form here. Yeah. So I print out my best bets, I'll come here, let him out, sit here for 3-4 hours, just let him have a pick of grass. That might be when he's having a day off, but I try and work probably 4 or 5 days a week. He'll get work, so we'll either go for a little road ride, which is quite funny when everyone drives past you and they look as if to say, what's going on? What is this? This is weird. Or we'll go to the beach. We go to the beach quite a lot. He really enjoys it for his recovery too, which is important. Or I'll flat work him a couple of days, and then often we'll go out once a week, normally for a lesson, a show jumping lesson with Tom and Greg McDermott, who've helped me a lot out at Fernhill, and they've got the beautiful track there, a lot of their pre-trainers. So again, it's that connection with racing, the crossover between racing and show jumping, and so it's all very fluid, but I try and stick to at least 4 to 5 days he's being worked, and then as much time as he can out doing this, and then he'll go out often he'll have a little break once a month. He'll go to the paddock. I like to try and bring it out, keep it fresh for him, keep his mind, ever changing, so he's not just in this one spot all the time.
Yeah, and then the competition. So we filmed you at Thoroughbred Sport Horse, and of course you've just recently competed at Equimillion. What are your aims with him, and how have you sort of found his progression?
So I never thought that we would be jumping what we are now. So we're jumping 1.20 m, which is a lot bigger than I ever thought either of us would ever get to. It's all been through Greg and Tom's help. So we're certainly still green at the 1.20 m. So I'd like to be, by the end of probably within the next 12 months, quite competitive at 120 and just really consistently performing. It's all about, consistency and constantly developing not just our show jumping, but our flat work, how he's moving, making sure he's still happy with everything we're doing. But he's really a scopy horse, so a lot of it is me having to catch up with him.
Yeah, but it's very brave on your behalf too, jumping in 1.20 m.
It takes a lot, but it also takes a village. And I've got a lot of help with friends. If I can't get down here, they'll help me. Luke helps. Sometimes when he can, he'll jump on. And as I said, Greg and Tom have been the hugest help to me. I wouldn't have even known where to begin to get to this level if it hadn't been for them.
Yeah. And the competition is another whole friendship group, isn't it? I mean, there's Rachel King, or there's a Jeff Penzer, or Ray Louise from Fernwood Farm, or there's a huge amount of people from the racing industry now so involved and very publicly involved, because these shows have developed so much, haven't they?
When I first moved to Sydney, I didn't know how I would go. It's a really different environment, and it wasn't until I found my clique, I suppose, in that show jumping scene with my friends and from racing as well, that I really thought this is amazing, that I've got this great group of friends who I can see week in, week out, not at the races, but also, on a Sunday when we go out to Hawkesbury Jump Club. Kathy O'Hara, Rachel King, like you said, Jess Bott, she's been an enormous help to me. I can't express how much I adore Jess. She's so wonderful. She's always willing to help, and of course she's Adrian's partner, so she understands the racing side too. So we're just really lucky that we've got a wonderful group. Jeff Penzer, as you said, even at Equimillions, a lot of the girls from the stables came out. Tilly McCarroll, she's about to start her apprenticeship. I'm really lucky to have a great group of friends.
The biggest issue, I guess, is, the number of horses that need to be rehomed, but often they get passed along, in the equestrian world, they're not necessarily at a home for a long time. What would you say to owners trying to rehome a horse? What are the most important things to ask someone that might be taking on your horse?
a very big commitment when you're taking on an off-the-track thoroughbred. Often they can be a little bit tricky when they first come off the track, not just with their feeding, how they let down, their personalities. There's so many things to take into account, which is why it's so important that they're going to the right homes. And I know it's tricky to rehome horses, and we know that it is a broader issue and it's one that we really need to focus on. And I think owners and trainers always have the best interest for their horse in mind when they're rehoming this horse, but it's the next home that they go to and the next home after that. So I think it's that transparency and traceability and just trying to keep in touch with them. I think, and I always said if I ever sold Gerry, which I don't think I ever will, I think he's got a home for life, but it's the traceability and just checking in, even if it's once every 6 months, once every year, just to make sure that everything's on track, saying, is there anything you need help with? You know, do you need any information from the trainer or the previous owner as to what works with the horse, what doesn't? It's just that constant contact, because inevitably they can sometimes fall into the wrong hands, and it's something that I worry about a lot too. But ultimately we need homes for them, so it's all about just checking in, making sure people are going okay with them. Feed's expensive, they are expensive, everything about them is, so it's just making sure that everyone financially is okay long term and keeping that contact.
And then from the equestrian world, I guess, as you say, talk to the trainers, you know, find out more about the horse. People within the industry, you know, the racing industry is so much more transparent than it was, and people will tell you if a horse has had a problem, or, you know, you'd hope they would, and the good people will, so that's, you know, 99% really. So yeah, what would you say to equestrian people about what are the things you should ask before you take that horse on?
Well, I have trainers so often messaging me, and they're so open to people messaging them and asking any questions. There's so much traceability, and we talk about this traceability all the time, but they're so well managed racehorses. This trainer will know everything that's happened, every medication that this horse has had since they stepped foot in the stables. The pre-trainers, the jockeys, the track riders, they all know these horses so well. So reach out to them, they're there and they're so willing to help. They want the horses to have the best home, and they want to make sure that they get the best outcome. So I think it's transparency that they prefer, and that I would prefer if I was getting a horse off the track too. So everyone's open to it, everyone just wants the best outcome for the horses, and that's the biggest thing to remember when you're getting an off the track thoroughbred, that there's so much help out there, just ask.
Wise words there from Ally Mosely, and we wish Ally and Gerry all the best in their upcoming competitions. Coming up after the break on the final Thoroughbreds Are Go for the series, Silverdale Farm Academy and the great work it's doing in attracting new staff to the Australian racing and breeding industry. As well as talking about thoroughbred rehoming, another vital part of educating the equestrian world about this great breed is to get them jobs within the racing and breeding industry. Steve and Eliza Grant's Silverdale Farm has done a wonderful job with their academy, attracting a new generation into the racing and breeding world. Jemma Still is the perfect example of this, having found a job as a stable staff member with Paul and Martha Cave at their Warwick Farm stables in Sydney. Jemma, it's great to see you here at the training stables of Paul and Martha Cave. You've done the Silverdale Academy course, we'll talk about that in a minute, but tell me your background. You've done a bit of work with horses, but not a lot over the years. What was your horse background before doing Silverdale?
So I finished year 12 in my HSC last year. So while I was at school, I worked at a riding school for 4 years. I started when I was 15 and I'm 19 now. So I'd work once a week on a Saturday, like saddling horses, like leading them, feeding, riding. And then when I finished school, my plan was to have a gap year. I knew what I wanted to do, to work with horses, like kind of like a stable hand job, and I thought maybe racing. And then my careers advisor at school actually sent me to Silverdale Academy program and said like, oh, like maybe this is something you should do. And at the time I thought, oh, like I wanted to have a gap year and I didn't really want to study, but I thought it was a great opportunity and I didn't want to pass it up while it was there. And like I spoke to some people and they said like about how good it's been for like past interns and that. So I did that Silverdale Academy, and then after that it made me realise that I definitely want to work in a racing stable with the horses. And I knew like what sort of hours and like that working every day it involved, and I thought I do want to do that. I know a lady that does equine sports therapy. She actually works on horses here. I did my work experience with her in year 10 and actually came here once. So it's funny I've ended up here. I asked her like, does she recommend any stables? Because like there's so many stables. I didn't know like who, like I didn't know, because like I haven't been in racing before, so I was like, don't know any of the trainers, what they're like, what their stables are like. So, and she recommended Paul and Martha. So then I rang Martha and she said come in for a 2-week trial to see if I like it and if I'm suitable for the job, and I'm still here almost 6 months later and I absolutely love it.
So if someone's watching and they're thinking about doing, you know, the Silverdale Academy, what was your day-to-day work? What did you learn through that course?
The main thing through Silverdale is like learning how to handle the horses safely. We came to Warwick Farm for a week, like, and yeah, we had people come and speak to us. We did some handling with the clerk of the course horses, which was really good, and they taught you like how to use like the chiffney bits and like leading them in and out of boxes, which is what I do every day here. So it was good to learn that because I didn't have to do that at my other job.
And they're very different, these thoroughbred horses, to riding school horses, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Yeah, they're very different. They're so sweet and lovely, but like they can get strong. Like it's good to know how to like handle that. Like if you get in a situation, like if they do become a bit strong, that you're able to safely handle them and like be confident about it.
A lot of it is down in the Southern Highlands at Silverdale Farm, so you really get a view of what the stud side of the racing industry is as well as the racing side.
Yeah, you get to see like everything about the thoroughbred breeding and racing, and to see what like path you might want to take. Had people come and speak to us about like nutrition, that do the feeding for horses and that, which was really interesting. Like, you think you want to be in the industry but you might not want to handle the horses at all. Like there's so many jobs like that you can do to still be part of it and be around the horses but not actually have to touch them. But I knew I want to touch the horses, I want to handle them, that's the best bit, like, and going to the races and that.
7 Labelle, Claire, Sean Guymer for Paul and Martha Cove.
And you've obviously got a passion for the horses. Tell us about your first time strapping a winner down at Kembla Grange, a favourite horse of yours, but tell us about that day and you know, the first time having a winner.
It was very exciting. I couldn't watch the race at the end when she was coming down because she's so good. She led like the whole way. I don't even know how to describe it. It was just so amazing. It's like an experience like no other. Like you can't compare it with anything. It's good like to know that you've worked with them every day in order for them to be able to perform to their best. Like not just at the races, but in their everyday work as well. You definitely have to be passionate to do it though. I feel like if you don't enjoy it or if you're not passionate, it's hard. But I am passionate about it and I love it, and that's what gets me up every morning at 2:30. Like it's great.
You're looking at doing the leadership course now for Silverdale. Tell us what you want from that.
Yeah, so I'm looking to further my skills in leadership because my main job around the stables is to run the stables when like Martha is out riding with the track riders. I want to get better at that, like to be able to manage that better. So I think that's very important, like to be able to lead a team, especially like in this industry. Like if you don't have teamwork, it doesn't work.
I'm glad of the training that she has received because the facilities we've lost here to train people, we need, we need such. And Jemma came here fairly competent, handling horses, but still has a lot to learn, and she's going very well.
Over the years, you've dealt with a lot of young people, and it is important for them to get that right education about this industry right from the outset, isn't it?
It is. When I trained them, those people, we had a lot of facilities here. we could ride all day. Now that the track's closed at such and such a time, the area down there we call Riley's was open 24/7. So you could take a kid down on a summer's evening, which I did with the Berry boys, and put them on the lunge, arms folded, and that sort of thing, and they learned to ride.
What would you say to trainers that are looking at taking on staff, whether they've come through Silverdale Academy or another training sort of course? How
I think
important is it?
it's essential, because if they haven't got some training like that, it's quite daunting going into a stable at 4 o'clock in the morning, boom, boom, boom. If they've had a bit of grounding, well, at least they know what's going on.
As far as Jemma herself, what does she contribute here? Because she's only really starting out in the industry. How much work, it's great to have that pair of hands and another staff member so keen.
Well, that's the number one thing, keen. She'll develop under my wife's guidance and be able to approach everything. Whereas if she was in a bigger stables and a number, she'd find it more difficult, First of all, they learn to put horses on the walker, clean the stables. And my wife then assesses them the next step. And the next step is you can take this to the pool and swim it. And they graduate from there. And then the races. And she's been to the races and she strapped a winner, didn't you? Yeah, but it's a slow process, but definitely it needs the grounding of training before they come into stables. Definitely go for as much training as you can prior to coming in to a stables or getting a job in the stables. It's so full on now, racing, and there's so many horses trained on the tracks. It could be frightening if you haven't had the training.
What are the best things for these young kids coming and working in a racing stable?
You go from dawn till dusk. The fresh air, working outside, definitely a plus, rather than sitting in an office. If you like horses, you'll have plenty to do with them, Those that learn to ride in training should go to a pre-training farm or breaking-in farm before they hit the race course, because the race course is, especially Warwick Farm and these city tracks, is full on and quite daunting. No matter how good a rider you are, if you haven't got the familiarity with riding race horses in an environment, a quieter environment first, then you can come into the stables.
It is a great program, and I feel like it helped me decide that what I want to do. If I didn't do that and came into a racing stable, I probably wouldn't have had much confidence being able to handle them, and it definitely teaches you a lot. And it brings new people into the industry, people that might have thought that might not have been an option for them, like especially people that have maybe never done anything with horses before, and they think, oh, this might be a good program, and then they end up doing it as their life career. It's great.
A great story there, and we wish Jemma all the best in her career in the racing industry. Coming up on the final Thoroughbreds Are Go for this year, another great story in Arrowfield studs beyond the winning post. Where are they now?
The leader is Hot King Prawn. Yes!
Well, back, it's fabulous Thoroughbred Spring Fair. Great to see so many thoroughbreds, so many well-known brands, fashions on the field, and so many other classes. It's been an event you've built up over a number of years now.
Yes, this is our 6th year, and it's still growing. We've got slow horses that didn't make it on the track. We've got Eduardo coming. There's so many wonderful stories that come here. There's something for everyone, no matter what level, whether it's their first show, right up to professionals.
Hot King Prawn, now we filmed him before. He gets out and about, this boy. Just tell us, the story of where he's up to now, because it's so great to see a champion like that come back.
Yeah, he just finds everything so easy, and he's been so successful. He's just just easy. He's just, for a champion sprinter, he's just an amazing horse. He just, whatever is asked of him, he goes the next level.
And it's really great to see that these, the Hong Kong Jockey Club, the pathway back to Australia and New Zealand is there for these horses.
That's right, and the Hong Kong Jockey Club have selected certain thoroughbred events and royal shows, and they are sponsoring them, which is fantastic. We have rugs for every horse from the Hong Kong Jockey Club that is competing this weekend. They've also given a high point one. $1,000 for high point and $500 for runner-up.
Obviously the grade, being able to keep them so pristine for the showing.
You should see him at home, he does like the mud.
Exactly. There's so much that goes into it, isn't there?
There is. He competed at Wyong Race Club in the Fashions on the Field. He was invited there, and my farrier actually said, I couldn't believe that you could tidy him up because he was still winter hairy. He had feathers on his legs, and yep, it just took a couple of hours to get all the hair off, and he looked like a pristine show horse the next day. He will now just prepare for Canberra and Sydney Royal and just go to the normal ag shows to get his qualifications, and then he'll start back at the thoroughbred shows, Thoroughbred Sport Horse, Equimillion, here. People follow him and want photos still with him, and yeah, people even from New York, France message me asking how he is, so it's pretty fantastic.
That is Thoroughbreds Are Go for 2024. A huge thank you to our major sponsors and everyone behind the scenes who's helped get the show to air this year. I'm Caroline Searcy. Have a great Christmas and New Year. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
This program is brought to you by Tab. We're on. Download the app today. What are you really gambling with?